Hey everyone, in this video we'll be talking about adrenal glands. Adrenal glands are another type of endocrine glands that are present in our abdominal cavity. Now these are two in number and a pair of them is present over the kidneys. So each adrenal gland is present over a kidney. So this has two parts. One is the innermost part or the adrenal medulla and another one is the outer part or adrenal cortex. As you can see here, this is the adrenal medulla and this is the adrenal cortex. And adrenal cortex has its own three layers, and each of these two parts produces their own hormones, which we'll discuss in detail. Here, as you can see, we have a breakdown of structure of the adrenal gland. So adrenal gland has two layers. This is the adrenal medulla, the innermost layer of the adrenal gland, and this secretes catecholamines. So what are catecholamines? These are nothing but the fight or flight hormones. That is, they are produced whenever there is a stressful or a dangerous situation, or whenever we feel danger. These hormones are produced. So these are two hormones. One is the adrenaline, another one is the noradrenaline, the norepinephrine, also known as epinephrine and norepinephrine. Then we have the adrenal cortex, and this is the outermost layer, and this again has three more layers: zona reticularis, the innermost layer, zona fasciculata, and zona glomerulosa, the outermost layer. These secrete hormones called corticoids, and they are two types again: glucocorticoids and mineralocorticoids. So first let's discuss the hormones of adrenal medulla or catecholamines. So as I said here, adrenal medulla secretes two hormones, adrenaline or epinephrine and noradrenaline or norepinephrine. These are called catecholamines. Now, why are these called catecholamines? Because they have an amine group in their structure. So, they are amine hormones. They are secreted in response to stress or emergency. So, whenever an organism feels stress or they feel that there is an emergency, they have threat to their life, these hormones are secreted. So whenever these hormones are secreted, there is a sense of emergency, and we get to think better on how to get out of the situation. Whether the organism has to flee the situation, if that is better for it, or it can fight that situation. So this helps in taking that decision. And this actually produces some physiological and physical changes in the body which help to make that decision and also help to either run away or fight. So what are its effects? So these are the effects. It increases alertness, heartbeat, pump volume and respiration rate. So the alertness of the organism increases. So whenever we feel threat, we have heightened sense of alertness. So we start to know our surroundings more, and we start to observe our surroundings more. Whenever we feel like there is a danger to our life, or we have a threat, we feel there is a threat, we start to analyze the surroundings. We can hear better. Like that is one of the things that happens. A person or an organism starts to hear better. Even if you see in cats, for example, whenever they sense a danger, their ears, like their earlobes, start to get raised, and they start to hear like more intently to what is happening. So whenever like there is any like footsteps, or they feel if any enemy is approaching, like then they can hear the footsteps and all. There is increase in heartbeat. So heartbeat or palpitations occur. So whenever you are scared, if you are watching for example a horror movie, you feel that your heartbeat has increased. This is because the heart has to pump blood throughout the body, even to the brain. So brain has to make a decision really quickly, right? So it needs blood to actually get energy to work. As I said earlier, our brain requires glucose, right? And it needs, then glucose is carried through the means of blood. So a lot of blood is sent to brain to make it work. Then even pump volume increases. So heartbeat, like the frequency of pumping, that is heartbeat, is basically when your heart pumps blood, your beat occurs in your heart, right? So there is a frequency of pumping and also the pump volume. So volume of blood that goes by each pump increases. So basically on overall the quantity of blood circulating increases. And then also respiration rate increases. So respiration rate, what happens, we take in oxygen, we give out carbon dioxide. So oxygen is really important for catabolic processes or breakdown of like sugars and all. So we need that for respiration. So for our body to work and for energy to be released, we also need oxygen here. And after that release, carbon dioxide is present in our body that needs to go out. So respiration rate here increases in a great deal. So all these happen in order to increase the energy in our body. Like we need energy, right? Whenever there is we need to make a very quick decision, our brain needs energy especially. Then if we have to run, we need energy. So if we like if even we have to fight, we need energy. So energy like energy production here, this all is done to increase the energy production. Then pupils are dilated. So what are pupils? In your eye you have like for example, if this is your eye, right? So you have an iris here, and here you have the pupil. So pupil is nothing but it is a cavity that allows light to come into your eye. So this dilates, so this becomes big. So what happens when it becomes big? This hole through which light enters into your eye, if it becomes big, more light enters into your eye. So why we need more light to enter into our eye? So that we can see better, right? So that happens there. So whenever we go into dark, our pupils dilate. That is the reason. So we can see better in the dark. So more light can enter and we can see better because light is less there. And whenever we go into light, this constricts because too much light is present. We don't need that much of light. Similarly, if we are in a situation where we need to make like a decision, we need to focus. When here there is a increase in alertness, right? So if we have to be alert, we have to hear better, we have to see better. To see better, this pupils get dilated. Then we have Pilo Erection. Pilo Erection is nothing but raising of hair. So whenever we feel scared or whenever we feel threatened, our hair start to stand up. Like we have like they say, right, you have really like stood up hair and you feel really prickly. So especially on the neck region, our hair are raised. So whenever, this best example which we can give is when you are watching a very scary movie or a horror movie, this happens. So all of these. So in cats especially, you can see this Pilo Erection. So whenever they feel threatened or whenever they are fighting or they are going to attack, this look really puffed up and they raise their backs. So all their hair are raised. So they look really puffed up. Then they do this in order to look big. Then what happens is sweating. So when I said here earlier that this respiration rate increases, energy breakdown increases, all what they do is they increase the body temperature. So there is excess of, the BMR increases. So whenever there is like the energy, like whenever the energy production and energy consumption increases by body, what happens is BMR increases. And when BMR or basal metabolic rate increases, our body temperature also increases. So whenever we have fever, right, this BMR increases. Even in fever, our body gets hot. So to release that heat, sweating also happens. Then increase of blood sugar by glycogen breakdown. Again, we need more energy for our whole body. Even like whenever the heart also is working now, so even that needs energy. So glycogen is broken down and glucose is produced. And metabolism of all other things such as fats, proteins, etc., that also increases to produce energy ultimately. As I said earlier, if the situation occurs where we need energy and we don't have enough glycogen, amino acids and fatty acids will also get converted into glucose and provide energy to our body. So that happens here. So basically, whenever we are under stress or whenever we feel there is a sense of emergency, what happens? Either whenever we feel like we have a threat to our life or safety, we have to make two decisions. Either we have to fight the situation that is we are going to face, or we have to flee that situation. So either way, what happens is we need a high amount of energy. We need to make quick decisions. We need to be very alert, and we need to know what is happening around us so that we can make a decision, right? So when here there is increase in alertness, then we have greater energy production, greater energy consumption. When that happens, when we consume a lot of energy and we produce a lot of energy, BMR increases. In turn, to our body temperature increases. To decrease that, we sweat, and then metabolism, etc., increases. So basically, you have to remember that. And also, Pilo Erection happens here. This is another point. that it occurs. So if you have seen, for example, in your National Geography and Animal Planet, whenever you see that deer gets attacked by a tiger or a lion, what happens is they start to run, right? They flee that situation because obviously they can't fight the tiger. So here adrenaline is produced in them, right? And also when they are getting bitten by the tiger, they still run, right? If even if they're injured, they run for a very long time. This is because whenever adrenaline is produced, there is a very low tolerance to pain and there is high alertness here. So what happens is they're like very focused on escaping this situation. So they escape that situation. Even if you read about any stories where people are being attacked or they are being robbed, so even if they are injured, if they feel like they have to fight to get out of that situation, they fight, and even if they are injured, they don't feel it for a long time. So a lot of people, they get attacked or something like that happens, so they keep on fighting, and when actually the situation is over, they realize that they are actually injured. So pain tolerance increases and they get focused a lot on what they are doing. So even in animals and humans, this happens. That is why they say that we get adrenaline rush, and even when we are scared, right, this gives an adrenaline rush. Or when you are going on any kind of like a roller coaster or a very scary ride, your adrenaline gets increased. So that's why people go there. So for this adrenaline rush, that's what is actually meant by it. Now let's talk about the adrenal cortex. Here adrenal cortex is the outermost layer, and this adrenal cortex again has three layers: zona reticularis, zona fasciculata, and zona glomerulosa. Now zona reticularis is the innermost layer. So if you see the adrenal cortex, the adrenal medulla, for example, ends here, and here you have the zona reticularis. So reticulate means net-like structure, net or mesh-like structure. So here if you see in the histological like cross section, it is something like this, the zona reticularis. Okay, so then this is the zona reticularis here. Then we have the zona fasciculata. So zona fasciculate means column-like. So this structure here is column-like structure. So here you have a lot of columns, like this is the middle layer, right? If you see the cross section, you can see all of this. Then the last one we have is the zona glomerulosa. So zona glomerulosa, you can remember it as something being near to kidney. So whenever we say that something related to the kidney, we say glomerular or glomerulus. So that is how you can remember this. So zona glomerulosa, it is in contact with the kidney. So you can remember it by that. Now these secrete a type of hormones called corticoids. Now these are steroid hormones. So what are steroids? Steroids are nothing but they are a byproduct of cholesterol, or they are something that is that comes under fats. So these are steroid hormones or fat hormones. So they are basically, they have a fat-like structure. As I said here, this has amine structure, this has fat structure. And when we were talking about thyroid hormones, they had amino acids or protein-like structure. And also when we talked about glucagon and insulin, we said that it was a peptide structure. So it was again related to proteins. Here this is related to fats. So corticoids have we have two types of corticoids. One is glucocorticoids, another one is mineral corticoids. So what do you mean by gluco? Gluco means related to sugar or glucose. Glucose is a sugar. So sugar is nothing but a carbohydrate. So this deals with the carbohydrates, glucocorticoids. Then we have mineral corticoids. Minerals are, it deals with the minerals, as it is written here, minerals, so mineral corticoid. So minerals and water are something that are very much related, because due to osmosis and all, we have these both run in balance. So salt and water in our body run in balance. So mineral corticoids deal with water and electrolyte balance. So the most important glucocorticoid is cortisol in our body, and most important mineral corticoid is aldosterone. So let's talk about them one by one. Corticoids are secreted by adrenal cortex. We have glucocorticoids. What do they function is? Their functions are as follows. First is gluconeogenesis. that is production of glucose from non-sugar precursors. As I said, gluco means glucose, neo means new, genesis means production, producing glucose from fats and proteins that we spoke earlier. Then it helps in lipolysis and proteolysis. If we have to break down anything, we need to if we need to convert it into glucose, we need to break it down, right? So it helps in breakdown of fats and proteins. Lysis means to break. Then we have then it inhibits cellular uptake and utilization of amino acids. So amino acids, the main function of amino acids is in building muscle. So they stop that, and they stop utilization and cellular uptake of this amino acid. Now the most important glucocorticoid is the cortisol in our body. So what does cortisol do is it helps in maintaining cardiovascular and kidney function. It generates an anti-inflammatory reaction and suppresses the immune system. So what do you mean by anti-inflammatory means? And inflammation means actually whenever the immune system is triggered, whenever we get an infection or whenever we get an allergy, what happens is our immune system gets triggered, that some foreign body is trying to enter our body, and what happens it actually secretes, like its cells actually go and attack the foreign particle. So when that happens, there is an inflammation that occurs. That is, inflammation means that part gets swollen and red and heated. That is called inflammation. So whenever even we get an allergic reaction, right, you see that we get like kind of rashes. Those rashes are called hives. Our eyes swell up, nose starts to get runny, and we cannot breathe. So that is inflammation. So all that, whenever we breathe in something, right, that trachea gets inflamed, and that is why we cannot breathe. So people who have pollen allergy, right, they breathe in these pollens, and what happens is the trachea gets inflamed and they cannot breathe. So what happens is this prevents that inflammatory reaction, that is anti-inflammatory reaction, and also suppresses the immune system. So whenever our immune system gets triggered, it suppresses that immune system and tells it that it's okay, there is no problem to worry about. So it calms the immune system down. So that's how it works. And stimulates RBC function. Stimulates RBC production and its function. Here I have like a very important thing that I have remembered. There is a condition called autoimmune disorder. So what is autoimmune disorder is that what happens, our body's immune system, it starts attacking its own cells. So it thinks that every cell in our body that is actually important for us, like for example our heart, kidneys, etc., it attacks them, and it thinks that these are the foreign intruders, like these are the foreign particles. So it starts attacking and destroying those cells. So that is called autoimmune disorder. It's a very dangerous situation, and its cause is not known. So when we have to treat that condition, what is given is this anti-inflammatory substance is given, and that is called corticosteroid. So it's basically based on this corticoids only, and it helps in actually calming that immune system down, and this is actually something that is administered to autoimmune disorder patients. Though it is not relevant for NEET, I just thought it is good to know. Then we have another type of mineral corticoids. These are mineral corticoids. The mineral corticoids, as I said earlier, regulate electrolyte and water balance. And we have the important mineral corticoid called aldosterone. This acts on the renal tubules and helps in absorption of sodium ions and water. And it excretes the potassium ions and phosphate ions. So it maintains electrolyte balance by absorbing sodium ions and water. So and excretes potassium ions and phosphate ions, and maintains electrolytes and also body fluid volume. So body fluid volume is nothing but your water, like the water present in your body, that volume it helps in maintaining, and helps in maintaining osmotic pressure and blood pressure. So blood volume is actually maintained by this, because the water in the blood is maintained by this aldosterone, and even the osmotic pressure, where there is water, where there is salt, there is osmosis, right? The osmosis is nothing but moving of water from a higher concentration to a lower concentration through a semi-permeable membrane. Your plasma membrane, your capillaries and all are semi-permeable membranes. So this helps in maintaining that osmotic pressure, and also secretes some androgenic steroids. So some androgenic steroids, androgenic means male, like male characteristic steroids are secreted by this cortex. So all these deficiencies and excess of these hormones, it causes some problems, which we'll be discussing in hormonal dysfunctions again in the hormonal disorder video, right? Okay, so thank you.